In recent months, North Carolinians have been put to the test, and we've learned we're made of strong stuff. In September, our state was slammed by Hurricane Florence. Homes, businesses, schools, and crops were washed away. Dozens of lives were lost. Then Tropical Storm Michael blew through, bringing more damage. But adversity only defines us if we refuse to rise and conquer it. Days after Florence made landfall, I met an elderly woman in a Wilmington shelter who was rescued from floodwaters by first responders. All she had left were the few belongings that she had carried in her arms. But she didn't dwell on her loss. When I told her how sorry I was, she said to me, "I thank God I'm alive. I thank God for that firefighter who rescued me, and I thank God for all of these volunteers helping in this shelter. A lot of them had their own homes flooded. I'm going to make it." It's that courage in the face of fear, that conviction in the face of uncertainty, that determined spirit in the face of challenges that make us, North Carolina, the greatest state in the nation. And that's why tonight I'm proud to report that the state of our state is determined. Hurricane Florence showed us that we North Carolinians love our communities, that we help each other, that we're resilient in tough times, and that we are determined to work together to rebuild stronger and smarter. But the storm showed us that it's also time to come together to meet other challenges that people face every day across our state. And we have to bring that same determination to every challenge. To start, we must come together and insist that our public schools come first. We must come together to create opportunities in our cities and in our rural communities. And we must come together to get health care for hundreds of thousands of working people with no insurance. That's the determination we need to make North Carolina truly excellent. First, we must be determined to help our state recover stronger and smarter than ever. It's hard to find a part of our state that's been spared the blows of nature over the past 2 years, whether floods, rain, wind, tornadoes, or mudslides. In my travels, I've witnessed people's pain and loss. I've been inspired by their determination. Survivors who are working to rebuild their lives and their communities, volunteers who serve thousands of hot meals and repaired homes, first responders who pulled more than 5,200 North Carolinians and over 1,000 animals from floodwaters. I've been honored to meet many of these storm heroes, including State Highway Patrol Trooper Nicholas Stone Road. Just after the storm, he spent hours clearing roads and keeping his community safe. Even though his own home was crushed by fallen trees, he kept right on working. When he made it back home again, chest-deep floodwaters had destroyed almost everything he owned. But he still kept reporting for duty, protecting others, helping people in need, delivering food to provide meals for survivors. And you know what he said when he was asked why he kept on? He said this: I had a job to do. Trooper Stone Road, your state is deeply grateful to you and to all the people who answered the call to service above self. Please stand so we can thank you and all of our hurricane heroes. Like Trooper Stone Road, we have a job to do. We're determined to help North Carolinians recover, and we're making progress. Local, state, and federal leaders are working together, and tens of thousands of North Carolinians are already getting assistance. At our urging, the state and federal government have put in over $1 billion to help North Carolinians get back on their feet, and we're working for a lot more. This legislature really stepped up in a big way after Hurricane Florence. We worked together in a bipartisan way to help families, schools, small businessmen, fishermen, and farmers. But with many small business owners and families just one disaster away from bankruptcy, it's not enough to simply respond to disaster when it strikes. We must also limit damage from the next storm by rebuilding stronger and more resilient. Weeks after Hurricane Florence, I formed the new Office of Recovery and Resilience to carry out recovery and develop strategies to protect our state from future storms. We have seen violent weather threaten every corner of our state, and scientists agree climate change is making storms more fierce. It is real. And we are the generation that must act. In October, I signed an executive order to reduce our state's greenhouse gas emissions 40% by the year 2025. This won't just help us in the fight against climate change. It'll boost our economy by creating more clean energy jobs. We must also be determined to get people better educated for the jobs of today and tomorrow. When the founders of the University of North Carolina chartered America's first public university to open its doors in 1789, they knew even then that education creates opportunity. Public education lifts up families, communities, and our economy. But too often, public schools have taken a back seat to tax breaks for those at the very top. Simply put, public education is our most important job as a state, and we must do better. Now, when I visit schools across North Carolina, I see determined teachers. I see eager students, and I see hope for our future. But too often I see teachers working second jobs to make ends meet. Kids who missed out on early childhood education in pre-K. Trailers and crowded classrooms. If we want our educators to teach well, we need to treat them well. Last year, 20,000 teachers from across the state came here to Raleigh and asked us to help our schools. One of them was Nashonda Cook, who's here with us tonight. The daughter and granddaughter of teachers, Nashonda decided to become one too during a visit to her mother's classroom. Nashonda said this, "I knew immediately. I saw my mom change lives. I saw her help children reach their highest potential." Nashonda has taught in North Carolina schools for 20 years. Over the years, she's seen fewer teacher assistants, fewer classroom supplies, and she's had trouble making ends meet on a teacher's salary. But when her youngest child said that she'd like to become a teacher too, Nashonda didn't hesitate to encourage her. We want Nashonda's daughter and thousands like her to follow through and become teachers. Let's show Nashonda and other educators that we value and respect them. Nashonda, please stand up so that we can recognize your hard work and the amazing service of teachers all across our state. But North Carolina is still ranked 37th in teacher pay nationwide. That's not the respect they deserve. When I send you my budget, we'll put our schools and our teachers first. Now, I know we disagree on some issues, but I believe that there is bipartisan agreement that education will succeed with a good teacher in every classroom and a good principal in every school. So our message to educators should be clear. We trust you to educate our children. We're putting our money where our trust is. And we must encourage more of our very best high schoolers to choose teaching as a career. If they'll teach here for at least 4 years, North Carolina will pay for their college. Teaching Fellows scholarships are a great deal for our state, and they lift the level of respect for the profession. Let's expand the Teaching Fellows program. And let's give kids a better start by investing more in early childhood education. We work together to expand pre-K to thousands more students. But we shouldn't stop until every child has it. And let's give our students safe, healthy places to learn. Right now, 4 in 10 public schools in our state are at least 50 years old. That means they are still using the schools that you and I went to. Now, that's great for nostalgia, but not so good for students in classrooms with unreliable heat, leaking roofs, or crumbling walls. K through 12 schools need at least $8 billion in new construction and renovation. There is a smart way to build them that locks in financing against the whims of future legislatures and lets the people decide at the same time. It gets hammers swinging all across our state and still leaves money for good teachers and principals that I just talked about. This session, let's have the people vote on a strong school construction bond. And we have to be determined to build an economy that works for everyone. In many ways, our state is a picture of success. Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill are hubs for innovation. The Triad is a growing center for aviation and advanced manufacturing. Charlotte is a global banking capital. And our rural areas offer unique opportunities. Just last week, Charlotte hosted the NBA All-Star Game, showing people from around the world what we already know. North Carolina is America's best place to live and do business. And play basketball. Now, when I took office, House Bill 2 was hurting North Carolinians and holding our economy back. 2 years ago, I stood right here before you and said we must repeal it. And with bipartisan support, HB 2 is gone. But there's more to do to fight discrimination. We must show the rest of the nation and the world who we really are. A state that values diversity, that is welcoming, and that is open for business. I've signed 2 executive orders that reaffirm those values by banning workplace discrimination. Our economy is strongest when every North Carolinian can contribute. As we continue to grow and thrive, we're determined not to leave anyone behind. In the past 2 years, we've announced more than 40,000 new jobs and billions of dollars of investment in both urban and rural parts of North Carolina.
Good evening. I'm Phil Berger, and I'm the leader of the North Carolina Senate. I'm a small-town lawyer from Eden in Rockingham County. My wife Pat and I raised our 3 children in Eden. They're now grown and married, and we're now blessed with 4 grandchildren. A quality education changed my life. It's why I have the honor of standing before you this evening, delivering the Republican message regarding the state of our state. Tonight you heard from Governor Roy Cooper about what he'd like to do this session. We have some ideas of our own. The 2018 election confirmed two things for me. First, the people of North Carolina believe in the conservative principles of low taxes, reasonable spending, and common sense regulations. And in November, they returned Republican legislative majorities to Raleigh for the fifth consecutive election. Second is the basic idea that you, the voters of North Carolina, expect us to come together to respond to and solve our state's challenges. We've done that before, most recently in response to the catastrophic hurricane damage that still has some of our neighbors living in temporary housing. Republicans and some leading Democrats came together on voter ID as well. After all, a significant majority of you told us in last year's election that you wanted open and honest ballot security measures, in particular a photo voter ID law. It remains to be seen whether we will find more bipartisan solutions this legislative session or simply retreat to our corners. I, for one, hope it's the former. You see, effective governing sometimes means moving away from the extremes to achieve solutions that both sides can support. Republicans are going to have to work across the aisle, but then so too are Democrats. We're going to have to choose collaboration more often than not, because that's what effective governing requires. We can compromise on solutions, but as the Democratic Party across our nation becomes ever more extreme, we will hold the line against radical policies like abortion on demand and the socialism inherent in pie-in-the-sky proposals like the Green New Deal. The work Republicans do this year won't come as much of a surprise to you. We came into power in 2010 after 140 years of Democratic control with a simple philosophy: to enact policies that provide an equal opportunity for success to everyone willing to work for it. Republicans believe that every person deserves a fair shot to create his or her own success, regardless of zip code, color, or family income. That everybody should have an equal opportunity to be successful. Given an equal opportunity, just about any child in North Carolina, whether from Matthews or Cullowhee, Lumberton or Manteo, Shallotte or Eden, can exceed a father or mother's fondest hopes and dreams. Education, which helped me find and realize my potential, is the key to the equality of opportunity on which our philosophy is based. The girl from a neighborhood with more crime than hope, or the boy stuck in a forgotten town dreaming of an opportunity. Those children deserve the same chance as the kid in a family with two parents, two cars, and a nice home overlooking a tree-lined street. Everyone enters a world full of baggage they can't control from a past they didn't create. But we should all face the world with an equal opportunity to realize any future we choose. In a merit-based society where success is measured by actions and achievements, not by the circumstances of one's birth, education is the great equalizer. That's why Republicans have invested record-breaking sums in our state's education system. Teachers have received pay raises for 5 consecutive years, and those raises were at or near the top in the entire country for 3 of those years. We've also championed parental school choice. Every child is different, and parents deserve to have the power and the opportunity to choose the learning environment that's best for their kids. We removed the arbitrary cap on public charter schools, and we created the Opportunity Scholarship so children from low-income families aren't left behind simply because of the condition of their birth or the place their parents can afford to live. From 2011 to 2017, the number of North Carolina adults with a bachelor's degree has increased by 27%. And equality of opportunity means a fair shake for everybody, including historically disadvantaged populations. On the positive side, the number of African American adults with a high school diploma has jumped by 17% since 2011. And the number with a bachelor's degree has gone up by 39%, with African American women leading the way with a 42% increase. A similar trend holds for the high school graduation rate, which is up 8 percentage points since 2011. The gap in high school graduation rates between African American students and all students has been cut in half, from 6.4% to 3.1%. We must continue to work together to eliminate that gap. And in recognition that some students, especially from low-income households, might not think college is financially possible, we created North Carolina Promise. Now, at 3 North Carolina public universities, Elizabeth City State, UNC Pembroke, and Western Carolina University, tuition is just $500 per semester. There's still much work to be done. The progress made under Republican leadership over the past 8 years is undeniable, and it's just getting started. On finances, we've turned the state away from the old days and the old ways of ever higher taxes and spending. We enacted historic tax cuts that have fueled our population and jobs growth. 99% of people in North Carolina pay less or no income taxes now compared to 2010. And the biggest drop in the effective tax rate went to those earning less than $50,000 per year. We believe the individual citizen is best capable of realizing his or her own full potential. It's government's role to create a fair playing field and predictable rules, and then to step back and let people create their own success. That philosophy has guided 8 incredible years of growth and progress under Republican legislative leadership. And it's that philosophy that will continue to guide us moving forward. Effective governing also means dealing in facts, not in fanciful and unrealistic hopes and dreams, and certainly not in lodging insults to distract from the merits of an issue. And the facts of responsible Republican leadership are indisputable. Under those policies, graduation rates are up, incomes are higher, taxes are lower, and more people work today in North Carolina than at any other time in our state's history. Some of these numbers might surprise you. That's because activists, masquerading as unbiased observers, tend to withhold or cloud information that doesn't support a particular partisan narrative. They would have you believe that our state is in free fall, that we're going backwards instead of moving forward. But nothing could be further from the truth. The facts show what you and your neighbors already know to be true. The financial and economic state of our state is the strongest it has ever been. North Carolina is booming under responsible Republican leadership. But there is a cloud on the horizon, and it's become even more pronounced in just the past few days. You know, Thomas Jefferson mused 200 years ago that, quote, one single object will entitle you to the endless gratitude of society, that of restraining judges from usurping legislation, end quote. He could not have predicted better the situation with judges in today's North Carolina. On Friday evening, with the sweep of a pen, one Democratic judge from Wake County invalidated the will of more than 2 million North Carolinians who added voter ID to our state's Constitution. That Democratic judge ruled that the entire Republican state legislature was unconstitutional for more than 1.5 years. That ruling was based on legal reasoning that, to my knowledge, has never before been sustained in the United States. An unrestrained judiciary advancing political theories and political agendas that nobody elected a judge to bring about is a fundamental threat to the ideas our state and this country were founded upon. This threat is compounded by the governor's unchecked power to appoint whomever he chooses to the courts. Most recently, the resignation of the Chief Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court gave Governor Cooper an opportunity to show whether his vision for the judiciary was rooted in partisan politics or grounded in the time-honored rule of law. Unfortunately, he cast his lot on the side of politics, and in so doing abandoned North Carolina's long tradition of elevating the most senior associate justice to that vacancy. The governor now has an opportunity to appoint another judge to the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, there's legitimate concern that he will again appoint someone based more on politics than merit in order to expand a partisan judicial supermajority. And to what end? Look no further than the decision to strike down the voter ID amendment that you, the people, voted to enshrine in our Constitution. The judiciary, which should be the least political branch of government, is being increasingly utilized to frustrate the will of the people of our great state. In closing, low taxes, reasonable regulations, and prudent spending decisions may not generate sensational headlines or drive clicks on websites, but it's the basic formula for effective governing, and it's created a boom decade for our state. We intend to improve even more on our success in the coming years. Education, the great equalizer, will remain a top priority, and we do not intend to stray from the low taxes and low spending principles that have given us so much success. Again, I'm Phil Berger. Thank you for your time this evening. Good night, and God bless.